Today we're exploring a location that sits at the intersection of natural beauty and profound mystery. Deep in the heart of western Massachusetts, tucked within the rolling peaks of the Berkshire Mountains, lies the October Mountain State Forest. To the casual visitor, it is a paradise of 16,500 acres, the largest state forest in the Commonwealth. It's a place of vibrant autumn foliage, the rugged Appalachian Trail, and the peaceful waters of Felton Pond. But for over a century, this land has held a different reputation. To those who live in the surrounding towns of Washington, Lee, and Beckett, October Mountain is a window area. In the study of anomalous phenomena, a window area is a specific geographic hotspot where the laws of conventional biology and physics seem to blur. Today, we're stripping away the myths and the campfire ghost stories. This is part one of my look at the case for an October Mountain Bigfoot, only on this episode of The Weekly Strange. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Weekly Strange. I'm your host, John F. Murs, author, actor, adventurer. So, why this mountain? Well, I've gotten a lot of comments from folks who really want me to take a look at it. So, before I even think about getting out on the ground, I wanted to do an episode where we just sort of look at the background of it first. That way, maybe it makes a whole lot more sense when I actually do get out there and do some field research. We'll find out. Now, the first thing we have to do is just look at the geography. October Mountain is a massive anomaly in a state as densely populated as Massachusetts. While the eastern part of the state is defined by urban sprawl and the bustling suburbs of Boston, the Berkshires represent a prehistoric landscape of sorts. Geologically, these mountains are an extension of the Appalachian Range, providing a natural high-elevation migratory corridor that stretches from the southern United States all the way to the Canadian border. If a large, unclassified primate, a relict hominid, perhaps, were to survive in the Northeast, October Mountain offers the big three requirements of wildlife biology: food, water, and cover. The forest is a dense canopy of hardwoods and conifers, punctuated by deep, inaccessible ravines and limestone caves. It is water-rich, fed by the Buckley-Dunton Reservoir and countless unnamed streams, and most importantly, the deer population is among the highest in the region. Now, the written record of strange men in the Berkshires goes back over 2 centuries. The earliest documented account in the region dates back to 1765 near Great Barrington, south of October Mountain. Early settlers and explorers reported seeing large hairy men who lived in the caves of the Berkshire Hills. These weren't described as spirits, they were described as physical flesh and blood animals that were highly wary of human contact. As we move into the 19th century, the reports become more frequent. In 1879, local newspapers in the Berkshires carried accounts of a wild man seen roaming the high ridges of what is now the state forest. One account from 1895 is particularly striking. A town selectman from North Adams, a man of high standing and reliability, reported an encounter with a creature that stood nearly 7 feet tall, covered in dark, matted hair. He noted that the creature possessed a human-like face but moved with a speed and agility that no human could match, disappearing into the brush in a matter of seconds. Now, why are these historical accounts important? They establish a pattern. If Bigfoot were a modern pop culture invention, we wouldn't see these consistent descriptions from 18th century farmers who had no concept of Sasquatch or Yeti. To them, it was simply a wild man or some type of a wood giant. And this historical consistency is obviously important, with indigenous peoples having reports of Sasquatch for hundreds of years before even pre-colonial times. And we're dealing with a resident population of something that has existed alongside of us since millennia ago. The Berkshires were actually one of the last areas of Massachusetts to be settled, and October Mountain, with its steep Schermerhorn Gorge and rocky terrain, remained largely untamed even as the Industrial Revolution transformed the valleys below. This isolation created a refuge habitat, allowing an elusive species to persist even as the human population around it grew. Now we're going to look at a couple of reported sightings, and I know from reading the comments, a lot of you have had encounters or experiences out on October Mountain. We're going to get to those hopefully in the future. But for now, we're going to take a look at some of the more well-known encounters. The gold standard of Berkshire sightings. In the world of cryptozoology, a Class A sighting is a clear visual encounter at close range. And October Mountain has two of the most credible Class A sightings on record in the United States. The first occurred on August 21st, 1983. A group of campers, including Eric Durant and Frederick Parody, were situated near the edge of the forest. It was a clear moonlit night. The group was suddenly startled by a heavy bipedal presence moving through the undergrowth. In the silver light of the moon, they observed a creature standing over 7 feet tall. Their report, which was meticulously documented in the Berkshire Eagle newspaper, described a massive barrel-chested silhouette. The creature gave off a pungent, sulfurous odor, a detail that appears in thousands of sightings worldwide, but was relatively unknown to the general public in 1983. The vocalization, they reported, was a deep, resonant bark that they claimed vibrated through the ground beneath their feet. And then 6 years later, in July of 1989, another significant encounter occurred, documented as BFRO Report 1199. A hiker near Lennoxdale on the western edge of the mountain used 40-power binoculars to observe a creature from approximately 100 yards away. Because of the magnification, this is one of the most detailed observations ever recorded. The witness described a creature with reddish-brown hair grubbing for food. But here is the factual detail that still fascinates researchers. The creature was stacking stones. It would move a rock, look underneath it for insects or small rodents, and then carefully place the rock in a small pile or cairn. This behavior, stone stacking, is a sign of high cognitive function and tool use. It suggests that whatever lives on October Mountain isn't just a dumb animal. It's an intelligent being with a specific set of environmental interactions. And when you look at these two cases together, maybe we see some sort of a transition. In 1983, we have the frightened encounter of campers. In 1989, we have the observational report of a naturalist. Both describe the same creature, tall, massive, hairy, and remarkably well adapted to the Berkshire terrain. While visual sightings capture the headlines, the true meat of the evidence on October Mountain comes from Class B encounters. Those are incidents where the presence is felt or heard, but the subject isn't seen clearly. And between 2014 and 2016, there was a significant spike in this activity. In September of 2016, a camper near one of the forest's ponds reported a night of triangulated wood knocks. Wood knocking is a hypothesized communication method where a Sasquatch hits a tree with a heavy branch to signal its position. On this night, the camper heard knocks coming from 3 different directions, north, southeast, and west. And this implies a coordinated effort, possibly a family group or a hunting party of creatures moving through the woods. But the physical evidence found the next morning is what anchors this in reality. The camper found tree snaps. On October Mountain, researchers have documented young birch and pine trees snapped at a height of 7 to 9 feet. Now, let's analyze this factually. To snap a 4-inch diameter green birch limb at 9 feet in the air requires hundreds of pounds of torque, and it can't be done by a human without a ladder and a saw. It also can't be done by a bear, as bears tend to shred or climb trees, leaving claw marks and vertical damage. These snaps are horizontal, relatively clean breaks at a height that suggests a massive bipedal creature. And then there are the glyphs or tree structures. Researchers on the mountain have found saplings woven together in X-shapes or lean-to-like structures. Skeptics argue these are blowdowns caused by wind or snow damage or storm damage. However, when you find an X structure where the base of the trees are 20 feet apart and they are arched and tied together in the center, you're not looking at damage from a storm, you're looking at deliberate construction. And furthermore, we have to address the Bigfoot stench. This isn't just a legend. Biologically, many primates, including gorillas and orangutans, possess scent glands that they use for territorial marking when they are stressed or defensive. The fact that dozens of independent witnesses on October Mountain all report a mix of skunk, wet dog, or rotting cabbage is a strong biological indicator that we're dealing with a physical creature with a specialized chemical defense mechanism. Now, as usual, the skeptics will always ask the following: if there is a 700-pound primate or relict hominid living in Massachusetts, why haven't we found a body? Why hasn't a hiker stumbled upon a skull? Why isn't there roadkill on the Mass Turnpike? The answer is found in the forensic science of the Berkshire forest floor. To be factual, we have to look at the chemistry of the soil. October Mountain is situated on a bed of limestone and schist, covered by a dense layer of coniferous needles. This creates a highly acidic soil environment. In high-acid soil, calcium, the primary component of bone, breaks down with incredible speed. Furthermore, the Berkshires are home to an incredibly efficient cleanup crew. Black bears, coyotes, fishers, and vultures are opportunistic scavengers. In a wilderness as dense as 16,000 plus acres, a carcass can be completely dismantled and consumed within 72 hours. When you combine rapid bone decomposition with total scavenging, the likelihood of a human finding a skeleton in a deep ravine is almost statistically near zero. And then we also have to consider the intelligence factor. If these creatures are as smart as the 1989 stone stacking report suggests, they likely have social structures. And many researchers believe Sasquatch may bury their dead or retreat to the most inaccessible caves when they are near death. I mean, consider the mountain lion. For decades, state officials in Massachusetts denied that mountain lions even existed here. They said, "Where's the body? Where's the roadkill?" Yet through DNA evidence and trail cameras, we now know they're here. They're simply masters of avoidance. If a 150-pound cat can remain invisible in the Berkshires, a 700-pound hominid with near-human intelligence can certainly do the same. Finally, let's talk about the bio-acoustics. In 2015, an official expedition on October Mountain captured audio recordings of what researchers call long calls and whoops. When these recordings were run through a spectrograph, the results showed a multi-tonal frequency that exceeded the range of the human voice. They didn't match the vocal print of a bear, a barred owl, or a coyote. These are the physical fingerprints of a voice that belongs to an unclassified species. So we have a 16,500-acre forest that is geologically and biologically capable of supporting a large omnivore. We have a 250-year-plus history of consistent reports from credible witnesses. We have the gold standard sightings of 1983 and 1989 that provide specific detailed physical descriptions. We have the Class B evidence of tree staps and stone stacking behavior. And we have scientific explanation for why physical remains are so difficult to find. October Mountain is not just a place on a map. It's a reminder that even in this modern-day world, there are still blank spots, places where the unknown still holds sway. Whether you're a skeptic who requires a body on a slab, or a believer who has felt the vibration of a wood knock in the middle of the night, the evidence from the Berkshires cannot easily be ignored. The data suggests that something is out there, something that is intelligent, elusive, and physically adapted to the rugged terrain of western Massachusetts. It's a creature that has seen the rise and fall of the hill farms, the construction of the railroads, and the encroachment of the modern world, yet it remains just out of reach. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, this is part one of the story. I'll be heading out to October Mountain at some point over 2026 to see the ground for myself, conduct some field research, and hopefully bring you something exciting in part 2. But before that episode drops, if you happen to find yourself driving through the towns that surround October Mountain, I want you to do something. Turn off the music. Put down your phone. Just listen. Listen to the rhythm of the woods, because according to 2 centuries of history, you might not be alone. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of The Weekly Strange. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my new uploads. As always, if you really like the content I'm creating, please consider joining the channel as a paid member, and you will get access to some pretty cool perks. I will be back in a few days with another episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Good night.